So this afternoon, I want to answer a few of your questions regarding the Packers, and we'll start off here with this one from goodchicken_lame ducks. If Green Bay beats Dallas, does Barry keep his job? Also, Rasheed Walker has been looking pretty good at left tackle lately. What are the chances of cutting David Bakhtiari this offseason? Yeah, so no doubt with the Packers making the playoffs, the odds of Matt LaFleur keeping Joe Barry have gone up. The fact that the past couple weeks, the Packers defense has played well, I think has given Barry a higher likelihood of being back next season. Just because Matt LaFleur, he seems like a very loyal kind of guy. I think that if all things went according to plan, he would be able to keep Joe Barry for a long, long time. But I think the issue with that is that we've seen so much inconsistency with Joe Barry. And yes, right now, I think the past couple of weeks, we've seen a few nice games, but it has been against a rookie quarterback in Jaren Hall with the Vikings and against the Bears offense and a quarterback in Justin Fields, who has been a lower tier quarterback. And so while I'm excited, the Packers defense is finally playing a little bit better, the inconsistency we've seen from Joe Barry and this Packers defense over 3 seasons does still have me concerned. And so going in this week against the Cowboys, if the Packers beat the Cowboys, if somehow this Packers defense is able to keep Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, all those guys on offense somewhat in check, there's no doubt that the odds of Barry returning for his 4th season in 2024, the 2024 season, his odds of returning go way up. And still, in my opinion, I don't think it's a wise decision. If you look at the Packers and some of their defensive rankings this season, some of the more advanced stats, they're 21st in EPA per play allowed on defense, and DVOA, which is another metric, they're 27th in the NFL. And so they have finished well this season, 10th best scoring defense in the NFL, but I'm just not sold that someone else can't come in my opinion, and do a better job. I think that there's going to be lots of different defensive coordinator candidates out there that we can discuss as we, move farther, or probably in the offseason, sort of depending on how this season ends for the Packers. But I do think because Matt LaFleur is a very loyal guy, he, I think, probably wants to keep Barry if Barry can show up some nice performances in the playoffs. But my thing, last year I was sort of okay with Barry coming back for his 3rd season because he ended the year with the defense playing really well. There was a stretch of time where the noise in the fans and the general idea among Packers fans was Joe Barry needs to be gone after that 3rd season. But if you remember, the Packers had a really good stretch of games, maybe the final 4 or 5 games where the defense was playing lights out. And so I was like, okay, I get Barry coming back because if he can keep doing and leading this defense to be as successful as they were in the final stretch of the season, then it makes sense bringing him back. But considering there's still been this inconsistency where you have games where DeVito runs all over you, Baker Mayfield has his best day, Bryce Young has his best day, the Panthers put up 30 points, and then the 2 following weeks, the Panthers put up 0 points the next 2 weeks. When you see things like that, I'm just not sold that Barry is the best guy for the job, in my opinion. And as a Packers fan, I hope that somehow this defense comes out against the Cowboys and somehow shocks the world. I hope that happens, and the result of that could be Barry staying around another season. And I asked a question on Twitter, or X, the other day, and the question was, if the Packers win the Super Bowl, should Joe Barry stay around? And my opinion has been, after we saw that just poor performance against the Panthers, that no matter what happens, that Joe Barry needs to be gone after the season, just because I do think with the talent we have on defense, there's no doubt there's been some inconsistency with guys being injured. It hasn't all been Joe Barry when the Packers defense has struggled. There's been some poor play from different guys in the Packers defense. But I just do think that bringing someone else in could bring a spark and take this Packers defense over the top. But it will definitely get complicated if the defense plays really, really well in the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, all that really matters is playoff success. And if somehow Joe Barry really figures out how to get this defense going, the odds of him sticking around in 2024 will definitely go way up. And then when it comes to Rasheed Walker and David Bakhtiari, Rasheed Walker, former 7th-round pick, has been playing really, really well at left tackle. And I think that when you look at David Bakhtiari, the fact that he is 32 years old, the fact that he has consistently struggled with these knee issues, it's been a common theme for the past few seasons. I think it's the smartest move is for the Packers to release him. He has about a little over a $39 million cap hit for next season if nothing is done with his contract. If the Packers were to decide to release David Bakhtiari, he would have a dead cap hit of $19 million, which is massive. They could decide to restructure his contract if they want him to return, which would likely lessen the cap hit. But I just think because, as you mentioned, Rasheed Walker is playing well, the fact that we don't even know if Bakhtiari comes back, let's say he plays week 1 next season, will his knee be able to hold up? Because while I would like to say it will, we've seen nothing to make us believe that his knee is going to be able to withstand a few games, even maybe a season. And so I just think it may be the wisest move from a cap perspective to cut your losses, free up, $20 or so million, and decide to maybe move forward with Rasheed Walker, maybe draft some other offensive linemen in this upcoming draft. Now the next question here from Ben Sabin 7226. What's the most impressive thing you've seen from Jordan Love as the first time being a starting quarterback in his first season? I think the most impressive thing from Jordan Love has been going from being one of the most inaccurate passers in the NFL to one of the most accurate passers in the NFL. From weeks 1 through 10, he had a 59% completion percentage, which ranked 35th in the NFL. From weeks 11 to 18, he had a 70.3% completion percentage, so basically 11% points higher than the first weeks 1 through 10, which ranked 3rd in the NFL. So he literally goes from being one of the most inaccurate passers to one of the most accurate passers in the NFL. And that was the biggest thing, the topic of discussion early in the season was, can Jordan Love fix these accuracy issues? Because if he didn't, the odds of him being the guy in Green Bay would be much lower, because you can't have a guy only completing, high 50% completion percentage being your NFL quarterback. And so to see him not only improve but become one of the best has been the most impressive thing, in my opinion, from Jordan Love. And if you just look at him for the entire season, he's 26th in completion percentage, but the past 8 weeks, he's been one of the best in the NFL. Then here we have from Fred Sell B-Man 3319. Do you think we have a legitimate chance of getting the dub in Dallas? I certainly do. Go Pack Go. I do think we have a legitimate chance, because I think that when it comes to playoffs, when it comes to a win and you continue, losing your out game, the pressure is on, and you never know what could happen in these kind of big games. If you look at it on paper, it does look like a very tough matchup for the Packers. The fact that the Cowboys at home do have an average win margin of 21.5 points, which I think sort of shows that the Packers, the best chance they have is to get off to a fast start, because lots of those home games in Dallas, I watched a lot of them on TV, they get off to quick starts. They're up 14-0, 21-0 at times, and it's always hard to come back from that. And so if the Packers can get off to a fast start, make the Cowboys a little bit nervous, a little bit hesitant, I think that's their best chance. They got to get pressure Dak Prescott, run the ball, which is the Cowboys' biggest weakness on defense, get off to a hot start, and get the Cowboys to play from behind. I do think the Packers have a legit chance. And I think if we had Aaron Rodgers, if it was, 5 years ago, even if the defense was inconsistent and playing poorly, you'd say, well, the Packers always have a chance because Aaron Rodgers is on their team. And while Jordan Love has not reached the status of Aaron Rodgers, he has played better than Aaron Rodgers did last season. And so I think we could be underestimating Jordan Love and the effect that he could have on this game, because, usually it takes years and years before a guy gets to the status of a Rodgers where you really trust him and believe in him in that way. And considering it's Jordan Love's first career playoff game, we have never seen him in the playoffs. Here we have from @bird_plays sub. Do you think Jair can step up his game versus CeeDee? So I was looking at the Packers' last game versus the Cowboys from last season in Green Bay, and CeeDee Lamb had 11 receptions for 150 yards. And if you look deeper on those stats from PFF, Jair Alexander was guarding him, when he was guarding him, he allowed 4 receptions for 55 yards. So that means that 7 of the receptions for 95 yards was when guys not named Jair Alexander were covering CeeDee Lamb. So Jair wasn't locked up on CeeDee Lamb all game long. The Packers, I feel like most often, don't use Jair against the number one guy all day long. They sort of allow the receivers to play wherever they are. Their corners typically stay in the same spot. It could be wise to move Jair around, in my opinion. The thing that does make it slightly tricky is CeeDee Lamb does line up a lot in the slot, 57% of the time. So I'm not sure if the Packers will play Jair in the slot. We'll see. I think that all you can really hope for is that CeeDee doesn't have a monster day like he did last time, even though the Packers still were able to come up with a win. And when you have a guy playing at the caliber of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, they're gonna get yards. They're gonna make some big plays. The thing that you just can't have is have him have another game where he gets like 150 yards. And so I think when Jair is on him, if he's fully healthy, then I think that Jair can do enough to limit CeeDee Lamb. The question is, how will they, defensively try to match up with CeeDee? Could there be matchups where Keyshawn's on CeeDee Lamb? And I think Keyshawn Nixon is a somewhat solid corner, but facing off against CeeDee Lamb, I think that is a mismatch there. And so I'm curious to see how Joe Barry decides to deploy this defense versus CeeDee Lamb, because there's no doubt they're going to try to limit him as best they can. And then here we have from @Dawn, says, can the Packers contain Parsons? He is a madman. Micah Parsons has been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL this season, has the most pressures in the NFL per PFF at 103, second in pass rush win rate. This is what LaFleur had to say in the past couple of days about it. They do such a great job of moving him around. He can line up on the edge. He can line up at the linebacker. The 3 technique got the shade. They use multiple personnel groupings, so they do a really good job of scheming you up and trying to create one-on-ones for him, especially in those pass rush situations. And the Cowboys have had the best team when it comes to pass rush win rate this season. Luckily, the Packers do have a very good pass blocking offensive line, top 5 in the NFL. I think they allowed the 3rd fewest sacks this season. They're the 2nd highest PFF pass blocking team graded in the NFL. And I think that what happens when you face a team of this caliber, a team who has so many different weapons when it comes to rushing the passer, specifically Micah Parsons, while the Packers do have a good offensive line, it's tough to be perfect against a defense like this. And so while I don't think Jordan Love is going to be back there all day consistently having problems with Micah Parsons, I think there are going to be a good amount of plays where Parsons does beat, whether it's Rasheed Walker at left tackle, whether it's Zach Tom at right tackle, because Parsons does move around a good bit. There are going to be some plays where he breaks free and probably sacks Jordan Love. And I think the biggest thing is, can you contain him enough to allow this Packers offense to consistently move the ball? And I think we've seen this season, the Packers offensive line, pass blocking has been very, very good. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. If you want to see more Packers content like this, feel free to subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you never miss any Packers news, and I'll see you guys next time.